Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Folks, today is Monday, August 25th, 2025. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. I'm here in Atlanta, where I just finished participating in the Chris Tucker Celebrity Golf Classic. We'll show you a little bit of that on today's show. But let's talk about the news of the day. The twice-impeached, criminally convicted felon and con-man-in-chief, Donald Trump, is now allowing National Guard in D.C. to carry weapons. In addition, he signs an executive order ending cashless bail in Washington, D.C. Plus, he wants to imprison people up to a year who burn the American flag, even though the Supreme Court has already ruled on that very issue. Lots to unpack with the idiot in chief. Also, speaking of Washington, D.C. National Guard, a group of black legal groups says they're going to take action against the federal government for what they call this illegal action. Speaking of illegal action, Illinois Governor Pritzker, flanked by a number of congressional members and the mayor of Chicago, stood firm saying Donald Trump has no legal basis to send the National Guard to deal with crime in Chicago. Also on today's show, Texas redistricting, that racist gerrymandered map, well, it's now official, so we'll talk about that as well. It is a lot for us to unpack, so let's get started. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. On the Black Star Network, let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the fine. And when it breaks, he's right on time, and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, Donald Trump continues to show he is the thug-in-chief of what he is doing, actions he's taking when it comes to the National Guard in Washington, D.C. Now the Guard, some of them are allowed to now carry weapons. Now, they have been touting, oh my goodness, crime is dropping in a significant way, but they're also lying because he said, first of all, that D.C. has never had this type of consecutive days where there's been no murders. That's a lie. It happened earlier this year. It was even a longer period. Most of the arrests actually are misdemeanors. They're not violent crime. And so what you're dealing with is somebody who is flat out lying. But then again, that's what he does. He lies over and over and over again. This is really all for show. It really has nothing to do with anything real. And so it's a fraud. He signed an executive order allowing Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth the authority to establish, quote, specialized National Guard units to deal with public disorder issues and cracking down on so-called cashless bail. According to the White House, one of the executive orders will apply specifically to D.C., while the other will have a broader national scope. Y'all, but he doesn't have the authority, so that's all BS. But the civil and human rights lawyers from Black Lawyers for Justice say they plan to take what they call strong legal action in federal court against any National Guard or Metropolitan Police Department officers who violate the constitutional rights of residents in the district. Now, Black Lawyers for Justice National President is attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz. He joins us right now. Malik, glad to have you here. So walk us through this. When you say take strong action, what does that mean? Because others have filed lawsuits saying this is illegal. So what does that mean in terms of what y'all are going to do?
This means that each individual officer, whether they're a federal police officer, a National Guard, or unfortunately an MPD officer, any individual officer that violates a person's constitutional rights or Fourth Amendment rights against illegal search and seizures or detentions, those officers will be sued right away in their individual capacity. That means that their bank accounts, their livelihood will be put directly on the line for the actions they take against citizens. This is a step further. And many calls are coming in because this military occupation is violating a lot of Fourth Amendment rights, particularly in the Black community in the District of Columbia.
You know, and what's amazing is that these National Guard, they're actually not in the areas in D.C. that are high crime areas. And so this is a television show. This is Donald Trump doing what Donald Trump does, is playing to the cameras. It's a reality TV show for him, but it has real consequences because now he's talking about sending the National Guard to Chicago, to New York City, and other cities across the country.
I believe it's more than just playing to the cameras. I know he has angles for whatever he does, but we take this serious. His military encroachment into Washington, D.C. has encouraged other Capitol Police, Federal Police, Park Police to act much, much more aggressively around this city than ever. Some are saying, I'm not necessarily saying, but some are saying that these are ultimate pre-steps into ultimately rounding Black people up and placing them into detention camps. This has happened before in America. So when we see the attack on our rights, when we see the disrespect of a Black mayor, a Black woman here, we understand that these acts are serious and they're encroachments and they're leading on the road to possible detention camps for Black people. And that's why we have to push back and defend the Fourth Amendment right away. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to fight in court aggressively to hold individual officers directly accountable for the actions they commit on the street. And right here on the streets, there are many constitutional rights being violated right now, including these checkpoints.
I remember late in the campaign, Vice President Kamala Harris said that Donald Trump was going to send American troops into U.S. cities, and people mocked her. Looks like she was correct.
She was entirely correct. This military occupation and crackdown. It's in Washington, D.C., spreading to Baltimore and Chicago, and this is a challenge to Black lawyers, and specifically that the Black lawyer must stand up and confront the plans of Donald Trump and the president. These acts in Washington, D.C. are further designed to to disparage the black community and to make America feel that the problem in Washington, D.C. is black people. Matter of fact, all of these acts are designed to demonize black people, to oppress them with law enforcement and ultimately take the stage for worse action. So we have to push back now, and we're rolling our sleeves up and we're pushing back now. And that's why we're going to be at the Metropolitan Police Department headquarters tomorrow at 2 o'clock, because we're going forward with strong legal actions against these individual officers.
You know, there were a lot of black folks who were out here ridiculing Vice President Harris, saying, oh, folks of the Democratic plantation, it's a waste of time to vote because nothing you will get from voting, that Democrats and Republicans are the very same. But there's no doubt that if Harris was in the Oval Office, you would not be seeing this. And what we said on this show to those very same people is, y'all need to stop acting as if they're not going to come after black people. And you had these people who were saying, oh, no, they're going after the illegals, the undocumented people. They can't do anything to black people. And we kept saying, yeah, they can. And we're seeing this. They literally are talking about sending Americans who are in prison to overseas prisons. You see what is happening where they are deporting individuals who have a legal right to be here, where Donald Trump has made it clear they don't want black people from the African diaspora to be in this country. They are removing the legal protection for Haitian immigrants who are here and for other African immigrants who are here. This is a full-on white nationalist movement. And black folk better wake up and realize, and like I've been saying, they want to defund black America. They want to destroy the economic, the civil rights, the academic, the health infrastructure, everything that we fought for since the end of slavery. They are coming after, and it's only been 8 months.
I think you're correct there, specifically as it pertains to this Justice Department. I actually miss Assistant Attorney General of the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, Miss Kristen Clark. She's the one that spearheaded the prosecution of the Rankin County Goon Squad. I don't believe they would be prosecuted under this administration. You are correct. This is a white supremacist administration that intends on sending a message and a tone that white people are back in charge in America. And just as they're doing the brown people under ICE, they're doing the black people by other means. And so, this Justice Department, the ones that opened up pattern and practice investigations into Memphis, Lexington, Mississippi, Rankin County, Mississippi, cities in Minnesota, this new Justice Department has rolled back that Justice Department Civil Rights Division's progress under Attorney General Kristen Clark. It's disgraceful, and we're in a fight. And my only lamenting in this hour is that I think that we're becoming too naive as black people, and specifically the black lawyers. I think that we're becoming too naive and complacent, and Donald Trump is nothing to play with. He's serious, and he's taking action, and we must stand up and take strong actions back.
Malik, last point here, people keep asking me, oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And I keep saying, look, you have to maximize the vote. We literally have to vote in massive numbers to stop what is going on here, because the Republicans control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House. Donald Trump is attacking private corporations, public corporations. The actions that they are taking are impacting every black nonprofit in this country. There are companies that literally are afraid to sponsor black events for fear that Donald Trump will sick the SEC, the FCC, DOJ against them. And so, again, I just keep saying to folk, listen, if you just gripe and complain and you don't use your vote, this is going to continue, because this is their agenda. This is Project 2025. The use of the National Guard in D.C. and other cities, it was in the document. We kept warning people, and there were black people who, after the election, said, well, Roland, I didn't really think they meant it. And I'm like, yeah, they did.
Yes, we've heard of the King Alfred plan, and we know that there are plans here to do away with us. We're not a wanted population, so I can't object to any means that would change this situation. I know right now that we are outside of suing and representing victims who are coming forth for their rights being violated. Black Lawyers for Justice, other community organizations, the Black Panther Movement, Afro-Descendant Nation, and others. We're engaging in community police patrols this week. We're going to be out on the streets, and we have to now put our bodies on the line and to do legal police patrols and legal observations. So it can happen. It is happening. And there was times in the past when people didn't believe that they would be led all the way to the gas chambers, but eventually they got there. And so those that are calling out the alarm are correct. And as a man, I know that this administration's actions, they're race-based. That the actions against the mayor of the District of Columbia, a black woman, Muriel Bowser, that they're race-based. And I, as a man, a black man, as an attorney, and those that are with me, Attorney Donald Temple and others, we're not going to go down without a fight. We're going to stand up, and that's what we're doing. We're standing up, and we're fighting back.
All right, then, Malik Shabazz, I certainly appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
Folks, going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, we talk about the principles of mindset, strategy, and execution. This week, we're adding a fourth, faith. You're going to hear from a mother and daughter duo who are helping thousands of Black women build wealth, all through their faith.
You are more than you can ever imagine. Not just obtaining things to show that, but seeing yourself.
Making your faith work for you. That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. That boy, he always unfiltered, though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
Folks, it's Bringing My Pound. Dr. Ome Congo, being a senior professor, lecturer, School of International Service, American University, author of the book Lies About Black People, How to Combat Racist. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president emerita, Bennett College, author of Surviving and Thriving, 365 Facts in Black Economic History. A. Scott Bolden, he's an attorney, and he doesn't have a book. All right, Scott, I'll start with me. Scott, I'll start with you. Look, you got everybody and mama is suing these idiots. You got Gavin Newsom, they sued him. You heard what Malik just said, people in D.C. But here's the problem. These people are defying court orders. They don't give a damn. You look at what's happening with Abrego Garcia. They're like, oh, yeah, we're going to deport you back to Uganda, a place he ain't never even been. And they defied a Supreme Court order there. And the problem is that the courts don't have a law enforcement mechanism because it's the norm of the DOJ, and Trump ain't going to tell his marshals to follow a court order. We are dealing literally with a dictator, and he talked about that today in the White House. We're going to play that clip in a second. Scott, go ahead.
Well, I describe it as authoritarian democracy, and it's a big capital A and a small D. They are defying court orders, but not on a regular basis. What they're trying to do is they're trying to find ways to get around those court orders, which in many respects is worse. The Article 3 courts, the lower courts, are backing the people and going against and pushing against Donald Trump and him pressing his executive powers. But when he gets to the Supreme Court and circuit, the Fifth Circuit, and other conservative jurisdictions, we're not finding the same amounts of the same results. And so we're really at a disadvantage. I like Malik, your prior guest, about suing these officers in their individual name, because remember, in the District of Columbia, the city cut a deal with the feds that said, okay, you can keep the police chief in place, and the feds can ask her, the police chief and the mayor, to how to deploy these troops and what have you. But they're going beyond that agreement now. And I got to tell you, they're now weaponized, if you will. They're carrying weapons. These are National Guardsmen from red states, including West Virginia, who have a huge cultural difference in regard to interacting with people of color, black and brown people. And I hope it never happens, but we see where the militarization of the police and how they treat black and brown people and how black people stand up for their rights and wind up either getting wrongfully arrested or worse, shot to death or wounded by these individuals now that they're armed with these weapons. It is a disaster waiting to happen. I hope and pray that it doesn't, but you can see what's going to happen even without the National Guard, what police departments around the country have done to black and brown people. And so we must stay vigilant. I like Malik filing those lawsuits and black lawyers and the NBA stepping up with their own lawsuits and representing individuals, but it's simply not enough. People got to vote. We got to get this House back, and we got to offset this Project 2025, because everything in Project 2025 is being done right now. Everything.
But the thing here, Julian, to Scott's point, you've got National Guards from 6 states. Ohio is now one of them. And again, we see the game that they're playing. But Julian, you had an encounter. This ain't just white troops. You got some old knucklehead black National Guards out there acting a fool.
They have been empowered, and, while we might talk about black solidarity, I mean, the most solidarity is that blue solidarity. Roland, I think back to James Baldwin writing a letter to Angela Davis when she was incarcerated. And he said, if they come for you in the morning, they'll come for us at night. Some of us believe that this is just about immigration, and that's just not the case. They wrote a book later in 1970 called If They Come in the Morning. This is what we all have to understand. They will take anybody off the street. I have implored many of my fellow former college president types, get the word out to your students. Make sure they have their ID on their phones. Make sure they know what their rights are. I told you last week about the young brother. He told the little National Guard lady, I don't have to show you nothing. And that is the truth. But now that they have weapons, who knows what's going to happen? That's a frightening part. Why do they need weapons? If they're supposed to be coming to keep the peace, you don't need a weapon. But basically, that man has occupied the District of Columbia, and especially in urban areas where a lot of young people hang out, off of U Street, near where I live. I mean, you can see their presence, and it is frightening. And that's they're meaning to keep everybody in fear. And so right on to Malik Shabazz for what he's doing. I hope that he and others, the black lawyers, will put stuff out there so that our young people know that they have options. They're not going after little old ladies like me. They're going after older people. Younger people. They're going after people who look Latino. And we need to just stand and if we can't do anything, we can at least be witness and bear witness and take pictures.
Congo.
So I think that there is a couple of things we also need to be mindful of that haven't been discussed yet. A. Scott Bolden talked about, the lawyers, and Dr. Malveaux mentioned the same thing. But we also have to be mindful of the fact that Trump cut all these deals with these law firms. So a lot of these officers and police and who are going to be targeted are probably going to get pro bono representation because of the deals Trump's cuts. Of course, we still need to do this anyway, but that's going to be another thing. He's pulling cards. I did this favor for you. Now I'm calling up my favor that I need in return. I think another thing that needs to be mentioned is Harmeet Dillon, in this quote unquote civil rights division of the Justice Department, and Kash Patel, they stopped all of these investigations of racism within these police forces. So not only to A. Scott's point about people coming in from places like West Virginia and so on and so forth, we know factually that there are racists and extremists who intentionally are joining the police force and the military so that they can get away with killing Black people and killing Black and brown people. And those are the ones who I'm also concerned about, because those are ones that are coming from all across the country. They're being sent from states where the crime rates in those states are worse than they are in D.C. and Baltimore and Chicago. But those guys are going to have license. And as we know, when so many of these killings happen, what's the 5 words that help so many of them get away with things? I feared for my life. So for Trump to be able to say, well, they can only engage if it's a matter of defense, we know that people have used this defense nonsense to get away literally with murder. And I'm fearful of that happening again. And lastly, I have a sophomore at American University. I have a senior in high school. And on these group chats that these parents are having, for all of the people who are saying, oh, we want this in DC, people are out of their minds with concerns. And we're having Zoom calls and group chats about knowing the rights and everything, because none of us are looking at them as a liberating force. We are looking at them as an occupying force. And I'm making sure my students know that as well.
Yeah, well, folks, there's a lot going on. We're going to go to a break. Go ahead.
Very quickly. In Washington, D.C., they do have a right to detain you, but they have to have a probable cause right to believe that criminal conduct is afoot. And under those circumstances, if you do get stopped, I don't recommend these young men not show an ID if they have the ID. On most jurisdictions and in D.C., you minimally, if they can have to figure out who you are, then you ought to show them their ID, especially if you've done nothing wrong. And then we fight them later, as opposed to fighting them on the street or mouthing off or having an argument. You're not going to win it on the street. You're going to win it with the lawyers after the fact. So I urge young people, Black, brown people, everyone, to cooperate until you can get counsel.
All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. We're going to stay in this story. Illinois Governor Jay Pritzker, he is firing back. We're going to play some of that for you. I'm also going to play for you what this idiot Trump said about people wanting a dictator in America. Lots to break down, folks. Don't forget to support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do, traveling across the country, covering the stories that absolutely matter. We center African Americans each and every single day. So, you want to support our work, please join our Bring the Funk fan club. You want to use Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. This is this QR code to contribute via Stripe. You can use this for credit cards as well. Checks and money order, please make them payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Next on A Balanced Life here on Black Star Network, we're talking what it means to be a balanced young adult and turning 21. I know 21 is one of those ages where you think you're grown. You can do whatever you want. The law says that you can. But what are you packing in your 21-year-old toolkit that will allow you to not only survive, but to thrive?
You have every right to make whatever decision that you want to make, okay? Because you're grown. Don't go out here and do something and then want to come back and expect somebody else to clean it up for you.
That's all this week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann. And you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
So, folks, Donald Trump ordered the Pentagon to draw up plans to send the National Guard to numerous cities across the country, including Chicago. Well, today, Illinois Governor Jay Pritzker, flanked by Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and members of the congressional delegation and other leaders in Illinois, made it perfectly clear they're not going to stand silent as the thug-in-chief continues to try to intimidate cities across the country. They make it clear there's no legal basis for this action, and they will fight him tooth and nail.
Over the weekend, we learned from the media that Donald Trump has been planning for quite a while now to deploy armed military personnel to the streets of Chicago. This is exactly the type of overreach that our country's founders warned against. And it's the reason that they established a federal system with a separation of powers built on checks and balances. What President Trump is doing is unprecedented and unwarranted. It is illegal. It is unconstitutional. It is un-American. No one from the White House or the executive branch has reached out to me or to the mayor. No one has reached out to our staffs. No effort has been made to coordinate or to ask for our assistance in identifying any actions that might be helpful to us. Local law enforcement has not been contacted. We have made no requests for federal intervention. None. We found out what Donald Trump was planning the same way that all of you did. We read a story in the Washington Post. If this was really about fighting crime and making the streets safe, what possible justification could the White House have for planning such an exceptional action without any conversations or consultations with the governor, the mayor, or the police? Let me answer that question. This is not about fighting crime. This is about Donald Trump searching for any justification to deploy the military in a blue city, in a blue state, to try and intimidate his political rivals. This is about the President of the United States and his complicit lackey, Stephen Miller, searching for ways to lay the groundwork to circumvent our democracy, militarize our cities, and end elections. There is no emergency in Chicago that calls for armed military intervention. There is no insurrection. There is no insurrection. Like every major American city in both blue and red states, we deal with crime in Chicago. Indeed, the violent crime rate is worse in red states and red cities. Here in Chicago, our civilian police force and elected leaders work every day to combat crime and to improve public safety. And it's working. Not one person here today will claim we have solved all crime in Chicago, nor can that be said of any major American metro area. But calling the military into a U.S. city to invade our streets and neighborhoods and disrupt the lives of everyday people is an extraordinary action, and it should require extraordinary justification. Look around you right now. Does this look like an emergency? Look at this. Go talk to the people of Chicago who are enjoying a gorgeous afternoon in this city. Ask the families buying ice cream on the Riverwalk. Go see the students who are at the beach after school. Talk to the workers that I just met taking the water taxi to get here. Find a family who's enjoying today sitting on their front porch and ask if they want their neighborhoods turned into a war zone by a wannabe dictator. Ask if they'd like to pass through a checkpoint with unidentified officers in masks while taking their kids to school. Crime is a reality we all face in this country. Public safety has been among our highest priorities since taking office. We have hired more police and given them more funding. We banned assault weapons, ghost guns, bump stocks, and high-capacity magazines. We invested historic amounts into community violence intervention programs. We listened to our local communities, to the people who live and work in the places that are most affected by crime, and asked them what they needed to help make their neighborhoods safer. Those strategies have been working. Crime is dropping in Chicago. Murders are down 32% compared to last year and nearly cut in half since 2021. Shootings are down 37% since last year and 57% from 4 years ago. Robberies are down 34% year over year. Burglaries down 21%. Motor vehicle thefts down 26%. So in case there was any doubt as to the motivation behind Trump's military occupations, take note. 13 of the top 20 cities in homicide rate have Republican governors. None of these cities is Chicago. 8 of the top 10 states with the highest homicide rates are led by Republicans. None of those states is Illinois. Memphis, Tennessee, Hattiesburg, Mississippi have higher crime rates than Chicago, and yet Donald Trump is sending troops here and not there? Ask yourself why. If Donald Trump was actually serious about fighting crime in cities like Chicago, he, along with his congressional Republicans, would not be cutting over $800 million in public safety and crime prevention grants nationally, including cutting $158 million in funding to Illinois for violence prevention programs that deploy trained outreach workers to de-escalate conflict on our streets. Cutting $71 million in law enforcement grants to Illinois, direct money for police departments through programs like Project Safe Neighborhoods, the state and local anti-terrorism training program, and the Rural Violent Crime Reduction Initiative. Cutting $137 million in child protection measures in Illinois that protect our kids against abuse and neglect. Trump is defunding the police. To the members of the press who are assembled here today and listening across the country, I am asking for your courage to tell it like it is. This is not a time to pretend here that there are two sides to this story. This is not a time to fall back into the reflexive crouch that I so often see, where the authoritarian creep by this administration is ignored in favor of some horse race piece on who will be helped politically by the president's actions. Donald Trump wants to use the military to occupy a U.S. city, punish his dissidents, and score political points. If this were happening in any other country, we would have no trouble calling it what it is, a dangerous power grab.
And Donald Trump wants to be a dictator. He said it during the campaign. This is this idiot today in the Oval Office.
As you all know, Chicago's a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need him. Freedom, freedom. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and I'm a smart person.
Y'all, the fool wants to be a dictator. He loves dictators. He relishes the power of dictators. That's who this thug is, Omekongo.
Plain and simple, bottom line. We saw with his first term, his admiration for Putin, or which obviously is still continuing now. North Korea, I mean, run down the list. All of his quote-unquote friends from around the world are dictators. Orban, you can run down the list. When he was interviewed, Sean Hannity, I'll only be a dictator on day one. This is a man who's always, Mark Milley, former chief of staff, told us about, the Joint Chiefs, told us about this as well. And so there's no confusion as it relates to the rest of us. This is who he is. Milley said that he's fascistic to his core. And one thing we also have to be mindful of is that Pritzker talked about what's his name, Miller being the lackey there. But the matter of fact is, we all know that he's the grand orchestrator of all of this, Stephen Miller. How many times do you hear a deputy chief of staff speak at all of these events? He is the leader of this white supremacist mindset. Trump is the white supremacist in chief. He's not smart enough to do a lot of this, but all he cares about is dominance and control. And so he's going to continue to go to these cities with black mayors. He's going to continue to target Democratic states, and it has to continually be called out. And if anybody's going to sit here and say, oh my gosh, Donald Trump said today that he's not a dictator and he's just, so it must be true. Read the room, read the temperature of the country. And anybody who thought this was not going to happen, that when he was literally at the Republican National Convention, literally saying, hey, John Bolton, literally saying, I will be your retribution, and y'all thought he was joking. If y'all didn't realize it now, you better get on the good foot before it's too late, because we're getting there.
Julian, it's gonna escalate. People need to understand that it will escalate. This idiot is drunken with power, and he knows that his own party will not say or do anything, and they control the levers of power.
You know, Roland, it's only been 8 months since this person was inaugurated into the presidency. In these 8 months, we have seen cataclysmic change. The takeover of D.C., the threats to Chicago and Baltimore, the changing of the rules about just about everything, the attack on our immigrant brothers and sisters, and the attacks on us. In 8 months, he has created more havoc. My grandmother used to talk about the bull in a china closet. She said, that person is just like a bull in a china closet. And that's what he is. And everything, when the bull comes into the china closet, everything gets broken. And that's what he's attempting to do. What is disturbing here is that Republicans of good conscience, or at least they used to be, are letting him get away with it. The Dems don't have the numbers in the House or the Senate, so we're relying on, essentially, Republicans with conscience, and woefully, there don't seem to be any. So he's basically tearing the rules up to all of our detriment, and I think we're all just very frustrated. But you know, it's going to be a year and a half to 2026 elections, and the question becomes, what are people going to do? Those who are responsible, those who are agitators, those who are advocates, need to make sure that we get the vote out. I mean, there were hundreds of thousands of people in Texas, in Mississippi, in Georgia, who just chose not to vote. And why? They didn't believe that fat meat was greasy. I mean, I've heard so many people, well, he's not going to do all that. Well, hey, he did it. You know, people say I have a neighbor, Latina sister, who told me she wasn't worried about Trump because he had a better handle on the economy. Then months later, she called me up. Do you know anybody my cousin, he's about to get deported? I just snapped my fingers and said, oh, well, because basically you didn't believe that fat meat was greasy. Now you're drowning in the grease. But the issue, Roland, is that we have to be willing and able to fight back and to take risks in order to fight back. You take risks just about every day because you call it out. But there are a whole lot of people in the mainstream media who refuse to take risks, to all of our detriment. We may not have a mainstream media in several months. He's talking about taking the licenses of NBC and ABC. Come on now, and we're going to be silent? I don't think so.
Yes, Scott. And listen, again, they are using every level of power to attack people. He got pissed off because Chris Christie was complaining about him and said he was going to launch investigations into Chris Christie. And on that particular note, you know what is very interesting, because, you know, ABC News has not had me on ABC This Week in 4 years since I criticized Christie to his face. And isn't it interesting that Christie is now saying the same things that I was saying on that particular day 4 years ago? So ABC News, I wonder who was right. Oh, I'm sorry, you're the same ABC that Donald Trump is now threatening to take your licenses. See what happens when you play footsie with the devil? Scott? Scott, you're on mute. Okay, guys, what's going on? Why can't I hear Scott? Either he's on mute or we have him on mute. All right, so, all right, y'all, okay, fine. Y'all figure out what the hell's happening with Scott's audio so I can get him up to answer that particular point. But again, I just need people to understand what's going on here. We told people about this. We said this was going to take place. We said this man had no conscience. He had no morals, no values, no principles, no ethics, no integrity, no honor, and no decency. And we're seeing it play out right now. Okay? This is precisely why we must resist. This is why every single thing must be done. If that means Democrats gerrymandering, then damn it, you gerrymander. If that means that every group files lawsuits on every single thing, that's what happens. And what it also means, if you're these damn Senate Democrats, you vote on nothing. You do not support a single nominee. You block everything. You filibuster everything. You have a blue slip on everything. This to me is nonsensical. This is very simple. You say nothing. We will support nothing. We will obstruct everything. That's what you do. You cannot play nice with these people because we see their evil ways every single day. All right, Scott, now you can talk.
Okay, so I watched the press conference with Donald Trump, and I wasn't surprised, but all of his allegations, all of his superlatives are just rooted in lies on top of lies. Like, for example, if we were rioting in the street and crime was running rampant and you want to send in the National Guard, then why wouldn't you want to join a partnership with D.C., the nation's capital where he lives, right? And say, I want to offer these troops to you. I want to offer them special federal police. D.C. has more police, federal and agency police and local police than any other urban center. If you think arresting people and putting them in jail is going to work, which is what his theory is, watch this. Per capita, D.C. has more people incarcerated and makes more arrests than any other urban center. And yet and still, we have our crime challenges. So arresting people isn't it. If you really want to help D.C., there's a multi-million-dollar bill on the Hill that would hire more police and put more money in programming to give young people an alternative to violence and negative conduct. And we know that if you have a continuum of care for young people who may be committing crimes in our challenged communities, then you do it through public-private partnerships, you do it through churches, you do it through crime prevention, not solving crime. What is crime prevention? Community policing, having police walk the community, from the community, and what have you. But it's expensive. It takes a lot of money. And so if you really want to help D.C., putting the National Guard out isn't helping the economy, by the way. If you talk to the restaurants, they'll tell you they're down 30-40% because people are terrified of coming into the D.C. because they think they're on a military zone, a militarized zone, and they're not using the reservation apps out here. So it's not helping the economy. It's all for show. And you know what? It's working for Trump because we're talking about troops in D.C. and militarizing Chicago. And guess what we're not talking about? We're not talking about Epstein, which is what this is all about. They finally found a topic that would get us off Epstein. But it's not going away, as you and I have talked about, but it's delaying the energy behind the Epstein issue for him.
Yep, but you know what? We see what they are doing. All right, y'all, got to go to a break. We come back. We'll be chatting with Maryland Governor Wes Moore. He has been going back and forth with Donald Trump, and Trump is trying to blame him and for all kind of stupid stuff. And then you got these Fox News fifth-rated hacks who want to talk about, oh, Wes Moore, you lied about a Bronze Star, even though he was awarded a Bronze Star. So it's all crazy. But we will talk with the governor next, right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
300,000 Black women being pushed out of the workforce.
This is shocking yet unsurprising.
So what happens when a bunch of Black mothers lose their federal job? Their kids are not being fed. Their kids are not being taken care of. But that trickles down to the entire community structure, which may be built on the backs of Black mothers and Black women more broadly.
Tune in on The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We are going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol, because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, we talk about the principles of mindset, strategy, and execution. This week, we're adding a fourth, faith. You're going to hear from a mother and daughter duo who are helping thousands of Black women build wealth, all through their faith.
You are more than you can ever imagine. Not just obtaining things to show that, but seeing yourself.
Making your faith work for you. That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
I'm Russell L. Honoré, Lieutenant General, United States Army, retired, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Corey Dixon Jr. was last seen around leaving his Maple Grove, Minnesota home on August 18th. The 35-year-old is 5 feet 9 inches tall, weighs about 180 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He was reportedly on a blue 10-speed, wearing a white shirt and blue shorts. Anyone with information about Corey Dixon Jr. should call the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension at 763-494-6100. 763-494-6100. Folks, the petulant child sitting in the Oval Office spent the weekend going back and forth, lying about Maryland Governor Wes Moore. He lied about crime in Baltimore. He lied about the bridge collapse and the funding in Maryland as well. He lied about the National Guard. Then you got these Fox News hacks like Joe Concha saying, that the governor was lying about getting a Bronze Star when actually it was a screw up, and he was eventually awarded that. And this is what you see. Donald Trump attacked Governor Moore, his integrity and his credibility, which is sort of amusing when you hear from somebody who was criminally convicted, who was also found liable for sexual assault, and we could just go on and on and on, and being a tax cheat. So let's just be real clear. If we want to talk about integrity, the person who is lobbying the insults literally has none. Governor Wes Moore joins us right now. And Governor, listen, I remember the scene from American President where they said that there are times for real issues and real people, and that's what we're dealing with. But what we are facing right now literally is a petulant, vindictive individual who has no bottom, who has no ethics or morals, and who literally will attack anyone and everyone and no sense of decency whatsoever. And that was exhibited this weekend with his attacks on you.
Yeah, it's just sad because, he's spending all of his time coming at me because he doesn't want to talk about his record. That's the thing I think people should always remember. When he is making these absurd claims. You know why? It's because he doesn't want to talk about the fact that his economic policies are making life more expensive for everybody. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that his trade war is making food more expensive. It is making clothing more expensive. It's making energy prices more expensive. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that his policies are, in the state of Maryland alone, are kicking 250,000 people off of health care. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that his policies have now kicked over 680,000 people off of food assistance. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that he has now laid off over 12,000 Marylanders, fired over 12,000 Marylanders who are federal workers, the largest number of any state in this entire country. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that his policies have cut funding for local law enforcement, for violence prevention groups. His policies have cut funding for gun violence programs. So what do you do when you don't want to talk about it? You actually just lob insults and you try to distract. And he's been doing this his entire life. And so I wasn't terribly surprised when he took to the airways to talk about how he wants to activate the National Guard. Doing something that frankly is not going to be sustainable, is not going to be scalable, is unconstitutional, and also something that is deeply disrespectful to the members of the National Guard. But also then taking it because every time he's talking about nonsense, he's not talking about the fact that his policies are making life more difficult for everybody every single day.
And the thing here is this here. He literally believes that he has the right to do whatever he wants, and you have to have a legal reason to make this move. Normally, the process is that a governor makes the request that goes to the federal government. He believes he can just do whatever he wants when he wants.
So I'm very glad you said that because people will sometimes refer to the Insurrection Act, right? And that's the justification that he's using to activate the National Guard. And I said, okay, that's fair. But we want to get technical, let's get technical. What is Article 2, Section 3 and Section 1 and 2, and what does Article 4, Section 4 of the Insurrection Act talk about? It actually talks about, to your point, Roland, it talks about the idea that it requires the state to, once they say they have been overrun or they have had all their resources exhausted, that they then have to send a formal letter and invite the federal government to come on board, which is not the case that we have seen for a single time that the president wants to talk about the Insurrection Act. And so you're absolutely right that there's, I've taken a few oaths in my life. I took an oath when I became a soldier and I joined the United States Army. I took an oath when I became the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland and when I became the commander-in-chief of the Maryland National Guard. I take those oaths seriously. And one of the oaths that I took was that I would always not just protect this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic, but that also as a soldier that I would follow all legal orders. Now, we have to remember that what the president of the United States is doing oftentimes is picking and choosing what parts of the Constitution to follow and pick and choosing which parts of the laws that will actually work to his benefit and to his favor. And so that's why this activation that he's doing of the National Guard is deeply problematic on a collection of different levels. But one of them is that you do not have the authority to be able to make those moves without some type of state ask or some other type of state build. And that's why I've been very clear. I will not authorize the members of the National Guard to be activated if I do not deem, as the Commander-in-Chief of Maryland's National Guard, if I do not deem them to be mission critical or mission aligned with what's being asked.
The thing was, what I found to be interesting, I had to respond to this idiot, Joe Concha, on Fox News, who was like, Wes Moore lied about a Bronze Star. And you listen to folks like this idiot, if he's a fifth-rate hack, I mean, he's a nobody. But then you have the Donald Trump as well. And I love how these people think that they can tell or they can say, talk about the military. Well, they never put the uniform on. When they never served, they never took that actual oath. And so Mr. Bone Spurs himself, Donald Trump, I mean, give me a break. He ran from service. We know exactly what happened there. And so who is he to understand what the military oath is?
Right. And, and listen, I'm very proud of my service. I'm very proud to have fought on behalf of the country. I'm very proud of the men and women who I serve with, and I know they are proud of me and my service. And I'm proud that to be a decorated combat veteran, to include having received the Bronze Star for my service in Afghanistan, leading paratroopers. And I sometimes you kind of look at who the criticism is coming from. To your point, Roland, I would put my service to this country against Donald Trump's any day of the week. And I really believe that if Donald Trump wants to have a conversation about service to this country, he should really sit this one out, because that's not a debate that I think he wants to have.
Governor Pritzker had a news conference today where he was very adamant about these plans to send National Guard to Chicago. And let's be honest, it was Vice President Kamala Harris warned us about this. Control room let me know when we had that soundbite ready. And she warned us. And many of us warned folks, yet people still vote. People still voted. In fact, I want to play that. This is what Vice President Harris said when she was in Washington, D.C. We were there. White House is in the backdrop. This is what she actually said.
Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. People he calls, quote, the enemy from within. America, this is not a candidate for president who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power. Donald Trump has spent a decade trying to keep the American people divided and afraid of each other. That is who he is. But America, I am here tonight to say that is not who we are. That is not who we are.
There were people in the media who said, oh my goodness, she's wrong. She shouldn't be saying those things.
Like
they owe her an apology.
And I heard that President Trump earlier today said that I told him that he was the greatest president of all time, or some other lie. It was amazing to me, and I said, because if that's the case, I found that really interesting, because when you see how hard I campaigned to make sure that he never got back to that office. Because what the vice president was talking about, we are now seeing in living color. There is a seriousness about this job. There's a seriousness about this time that we find ourselves in. There's a seriousness about the fact that the thing that people were hoping for, that this president has no intention of being able to address it. That Donald Trump was a fantastic vessel for the frustration. He was the one who would tell you over and over what's wrong and who's to blame for it. and how he was the only one that could fix it. He was the one who by his behavior and by his rhetoric really served as this vessel for people's anger, for the fact that the system did not always work for people. And we should be very honest about being able to say that. I also know this, is that for everybody who is saying that I want to make sure that we are making your communities safer, you want to make your neighborhoods more affordable, you want to make housing and make affordable housing a real option, you want to create pathways for work and wages and wealth, you want to be able to ensure that your children have a chance to inherit something more than debt from you. You want to make sure that you can own more than you owe. You want to make sure that your children can attend a school that's teaching them how not just to be employees, but how to be employers. You want to make sure that your entrepreneurial ideas and hopes can actually be supported. You want to ensure that you have a chance to age in dignity and age in place, that the President of the United States has no desire in making those things happen. And that's the thing that people are seeing right now, where if you look at the policies that have come on board just thus far, in these past 8 months, they have made everything more expensive. They've made true wealth creation, unless you are already wealthy and generally and oftentimes generationally wealthy, that's made wealth creation and the chance to own something more unattainable. That's made this country actually owe more in debt than it ever has before. That has made our nation less safe when you consider the amount of global conflicts that are now going on, that he has had no plan in order to solve. That we are seeing in living color what it looks like when you have someone who does not have a vision for all of us in place, whose idea is you're on your own. And that's really a slogan that they are living by within this administration. And so we are just going to be very clear that in our state, that in Maryland, that in our time, since I've been the governor, we have added over 100,000, we've added around 100,000 new jobs in the state of Maryland, which is more than my predecessor added in 8 years. We've done that in 2.5 years. That we have one of the fastest job growth rates in the entire country. That we've gone from 43rd in the country in unemployment to now having one of the lowest unemployment rates in the entire country for 1.5 years. That Maryland has seen amongst the fastest drop in violent crime of anywhere in the United States of America. And that Baltimore City is now at 50-year lows when it comes to homicides. That we are now watching population increases. That we have made our state the first state in the country that now has a service year option for our high school graduates. And I've signed the largest mass pardon in the history of the United States of America at over 175,000 misdemeanor cannabis convictions pardoned in the stroke of a pen. We are showing that you can give the middle class a tax cut and asking millionaires to pay a little bit more, which is the absolute opposite that we're seeing from the federal administration. We're showing that there is an alternative to the madness and the chaos that we are seeing from this Trump-Vance administration, and showing that in this moment, we will be remembered about how we responded, and I'm proud about how the state of Maryland continues to respond in this moment.
Governor, a couple of quick questions. Trump said this, quote, "I gave Wes Moore a lot of money to fix his demolished bridge. I will now have to rethink that decision." Didn't Biden, Harris give y'all the money?
Yeah, there's nothing that has Donald Trump's signature that has anything to do with the Key Bridge. And I'll never forget that morning when we had a ship the size of 3 football fields slam into our iconic Key Bridge, and you saw a bridge that's almost 2 miles long crumble to the bottom of the Tapsco River, where 13% of our state's economy shut down instantaneously, where thousands of workers lost their job, where we lost 6 construction workers who were fixing potholes in the middle of the night. And we were able to not just return, the remains of the individuals and make sure those families got the closure that they needed. But when they told us it would take 11 months to clear that federal channel, we got it cleared in 11 weeks. And we did it by putting on a case study of what it shows and what it looks like to work together, particularly in times of crisis. And we received 100% cost share between the state of Maryland and the federal government that was passed by both Republican and Democratic members of Congress and signed by the president, Joe Biden. And so there is no money that Donald Trump, quote unquote, gave us as a check, but there is no money that Donald Trump gave us. And so I always tell the people of our state, you cannot take something, we cannot have someone take something away from us when they never gave it to us in the first place. And I'm thankful to the bipartisan members of Congress for their ability to have a vision about what it means to rebuild this country together. And we will continue to work to make them proud in that effort.
Well, Governor, last point here. I saw this tweet from 2 hours ago and wanted to see how sad we are. This country is a black lawyer in D.C., sworn by 20 officers walking down the block. His name is Paul Bryant. He says he's going to press charges against those who assaulted him. He is a West Point graduate, served as an infantry officer in the U.S. Army before starting his legal career. And again, a black man walking down the street, and then he is accosted by federal law enforcement, Metropolitan Police. And I keep warning people, this is going to get worse. If people, and if you can speak to this here, and I've been saying this all across the country. I was in Jackson, Mississippi on Saturday. I was in Milwaukee on Thursday. The only way to stop these people, we have to have massive resistance at the ballot box in 2025 with the state elections, 2026 when it comes to the congressional elections. That is the only way to stop these people. We can't cry about it, tweet about it, put it on TikTok. We must vote these thugs out and have accountability.
That's exactly right. There has to be checks and balances. And you're right. I mean, like when I hear people talk about, well, what are we going to do in 2028 and all, I'm like, listen, what are you doing in 2025? Like, what are you doing right now? What are you doing to make sure that we are standing up and using our voice? What are you doing to make sure that we will not be bullied and we will not be pushed aside? And no, I will not just assume the position when we have a president of the United States and we have an administration who is continually attacking the people of our state. I was very clear with the people of Maryland. I will work with anyone, but I will bow down to no one. And this becomes a moment where we all have to be able to use our voice and say, if you believe in democracy, then start expressing your democratic right. If you believe in this country, then start defending this country. And when we have to make sure that every single race matters to us, every single election matters to us. I don't care if you don't live in Virginia or you don't live in New Jersey. There are two governor's races going on right now in both those two states that we've got to make sure that our voices are heard, because they will rest long after those. I don't care if you happen to live in a jurisdiction in 2026 that has a competitive congressional race. You have to make sure that your voice is heard and that the people who need to win, and the people who need to get voted out are voted out. This becomes a moment when we have to flex our muscle and we have to strengthen our muscle. Because if we don't, we will simply find ourselves going quiet into the darkness. And that's exactly what those who want to oppress you want. So use your voice, respect your democracy, and actually fight for your future.
And as we say, there goes an alpha man. Sorry, Scott Bolden, Lil Kappa, but it's an 06 thing here.
Right. First of all, servants of all, we shall transcend all.
Hey,
we shall transcend all. Governor Wes Moore, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
God bless you. God bless y'all. 1-9.
I appreciate it, Fred. Thanks a lot.
He had to get
come on,
that.
Scott. You know we had to go ahead and do
get
that.
in. He's a good dude.
But of course, now something that the governor talked about. Remember General Milley. Remember at his retirement service, he said this.
We don't take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that it's America, and we're willing to die to protect it.
Thing here, very simple, Scott. He was trying to warn people, and he was trying to tell the military, hey, you remember who you take an oath to. Donald Trump wants to tell the military, you work for me, as opposed to you work for America.
Well, they took an oath to Donald Trump. They didn't care about competence or capabilities or loyalty to democracy. It's loyalty to Donald Trump. And we're seeing how it manifests itself. When you have the House, the Senate, you have a cabinet, there's no pushback. There's no blowback. There's no counterweight now. That's the difference between Trump 1 and Trump 2. And that's why we have this authoritarian democracy now. If I had a question for the governor of Illinois as well as Maryland, the real question is, what do you do now? Do you wait for Donald Trump to authorize illegally the military to come to their major cities, right, Chicago and Baltimore, or do you go to federal court now, or even state court now, and say that based on the representations, we need a temporary restraining order or an injunctive relief to block this anticipatory illegal activity? Most judges and lawyers would say you got to wait. But in this case, if you wait, what are you going to wait for the military or the National Guard to cross your state line? And by then, it's really too late because they're there. And that's what you got to argue to the Article 3 judges. I think they'd find relief in both of those jurisdictions, but we'd have to see. But the strategy on top of voting is the Article 3 judges, the federal judges, federal district court, and the circuit courts. You're getting a lot of wins there. You just have to keep pushing as part of the multi-pronged approach to, you say, resistance, mass resistance. Well, the legal side is the mass resistance, because when you fight Donald Trump, you win because there's no factual or legal pathway towards any of these illegal acts. And you got to prove them in court, and you don't have them. So you got to fight, whether you're the law firm or whether you're the college or university or whether you're an individual. You got to fight, because when you fight, you win.
Yeah, and the reality is, Julian, you can't give in to this thug. It has to be a fighting posture. Guys, let me know when y'all had that Ken Martin bite. Ken Martin, the chair of the Democratic National Committee, at their meetings over the weekend, made it perfectly clear. He's to Democrats. He said, it's time to grow a spine. If y'all have it, play it.
Hello. You know, Roland, it's really
all right, we're going to have it in a second. But Julian, that's the deal. You can't be Columbia, you can't be Harvard, and you bow down. You can't be these law firms and you bow down, because he is going to come at you again and again. He's an extortionist. That's what he is.
You know, what do you do with a bully? You hit them upside the head before they hit you. You go after them before they go after you. You know that the bully is a bully, has no moral compass, just coming after you because they can. And so what you do is you hit them upside the head. I admire what Governor Moore is doing. I think he could probably do a little more. And I worry because, you know, that man says that he will withhold the funds to rebuild the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Well, that doesn't only affect Maryland. It affects Virginia, affects North Carolina. I mean, these are states that are led by Republican governors, but he doesn't care. So Wes Moore has been very effective, extremely effective in pushing back. But there needs to be even more pushback, because this man has lost what little bit of mind he never had. And he's doing it by going after folks, going after universities. I also want to lift up the brother who is the president of George Mason University. I mean, he has pushed back really hard. Where you have these other universities rolling over, saying, okay, we'll give you money. I mean, the only one I think that did decently with it was Brown University. They said they put aside some money for workforce development. Well, that's not a bad thing. But, you know, Harvard is now talking deal. They shouldn't be. They have more money than any other university in the country. They should be fighting back.
Got it. Other
universities are rolling over. Rolling over is not effective in the face of a bully. The bully will win as long as you allow the bully to win.
Ome Congo, this is what Ken Martin said over the weekend.
I shouldn't say this in front of folks, but her mantra to the legislative caucus was LFG. When we won back the trifecta, their first trifecta in 10 years, we won back in 2022. She didn't sit on power. We had a one-seat majority. One seat. Instead of playing it safe, instead of being cautious, instead of putting a finger in the wind, worrying what in the hell would happen if they led, seeing every decision through the lens of how you get reelected. Melissa said LFG. Let's fucking go. That's what she said. LFG. LFG. Let's fucking go. So, that's right.
On Congo, I mean, he said Democrats grow aspire. And he's talking about Melissa Hortman, who was the former Speaker of the House in Minnesota, who was gunned down along with her husband this summer. And again, you cannot capitulate. You must use every fiber of your being and fight this vicious thug Donald Trump.
We have to do it in their name, Representative Hortman's name, in the name of all of the people who came before us and fought so that we can be in this space. You talk about it all the time, Roland Martin, that people who are benefiting off of what so many of our ancestors or our elders who are still with us have done for us. One author called them freeloaders. And if we're not going to fight for now, we might as well just cave in, but we can't. And the fact of the matter is that when it comes to the Democratic Party, if the people lead, the leaders will follow. The Democratic Party, they're finally, slowly, of course, starting to get in line, but it's because of what we've been talking about here. It's because of the No Kings rally. It's because people standing up in all of
You want me to do what? Move to my left?
They have to make sure that every single day that we continue to do this. And it's just very frustrating that the Democrats have been so slow, but I'm hoping that in these next couple of weeks, they're going to really start to amp it up, because at the end of the day, they're supposed to be the protectors of this democracy just as much as we are. So I'm glad that they're finally in line. It's moving too slow, but we got to push them even harder. We got to keep going. Let's go.
Yes, we do. Let's go. All right. We're going to go to a break. We're going to be right back with our Fit, Live, Win segment right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Yo, we want y'all to go support us and on our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars are critical to our survival, being able to do the work that's necessary. Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. If you want the link, go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the check some money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered, Venmo, RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Next on A Balanced Life, here on Black Star Network, we're talking what it means to be a balanced young adult and turning 21. I know 21 is one of those ages where you think you're grown. You can do whatever you want. The law says that you can. But what are you packing in your 21-year-old toolkit that will allow you to not only survive, but to thrive?
You have every right to make whatever decision that you want to make, okay? Because you're grown. Don't go out here and do something and then want to come back and expect somebody else to clean it up for you.
That's all this week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
Now that Roland Martin is willing to give me the blueprint, hey, Cyrus, I need to go to Tyler Perry and get another blueprint because I need some green money. The only way I can do what I'm doing, I need to make some money. So you'll see me working with Roland. Matter of fact, it's the Roland Martin and Cheryl Underwood show. Well, should it be the Cheryl Underwood show and the Roland Martin show? Well, whatever show it's going to be good.
Folks, here's a connection between your brain and your gut. Really? Do those things work together? Well, my next guest is going to break this down for us, Dr. Aja McCutcheon. She's a board-certified gastroenterologist. Glad to have you on our Fit, Live, Win segment. So explain to people who don't even understand what the hell is in their gut and what it does and how it literally impacts us.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me here today. So I'm going to, most people think of the gut as being just a digestive organ, but over the past 15 to 20 years, we have seen that the gut does so much more than just digest the food that we put in. It literally is the organ that can determine whether you are healthy or not, whether you will live long or not. And so what we found is this profound connection as well between the brain and the gut, which we're going to get into today. But the brain-gut connection here refers to this two-way communication that occurs between your brain and your gut. So if you don't feel good in your brain, then you don't feel good in your gut. And the reverse is true as well. If you don't feel good in your gut, then you also don't feel good in your brain.
All right, so how do we then deal with that? So look, we know everybody and mama want to take something, but what natural ways can we improve what's in our gut?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the way that the brain-gut communication works is by three main mechanisms or pathways. One is our nervous system is communicating both ways. So we have a big nerve, which is called the vagus nerve, that's feeding back from our brain to our gut constantly. And they actually are born from the same cells. And then the second aspect of this is our immune system is feeding back from the brain to the gut. So 70% of our immune system actually lives in our gut. And then the third aspect that I want to introduce here, because it's super important and really boils down to how we can change the trajectory of our lives, how we can decrease our disease burden, how we can live longer, healthier, and feel better, is something called the microbiome. The microbiome refers to trillions of microorganisms that we basically house. We're like the host, the vessel of all of these bacteria that live in our gut. In fact, the bacteria outnumber our own human genetic DNA by 150 times. And what's been shown is that this microbiome, having a healthy microbiome that's diverse, actually has been associated with a healthier life, better disease outcomes, for example. And while we cannot necessarily change our biology, we can't necessarily change, what we inherited, we can change our microbiome. And the way that we're able to do that is with our diet. So within about 24 to 48 hours of changing our diet, we see shifts away from those bacteria that contribute to disease states and inflammation, and we see a shift towards those bacteria that are associated with better health outcomes.
Questions from the panel. Congo, you first.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for this information and your work. I don't want to get political too much, but I was reading about this, and they were talking about how this gut situation, this diet situation, leads to a lot of the anger that people feel in this country because of fast food diets and the like. And that's why we're seeing the rise of fights on airplanes and attacks in parking lots and all of that other type of stuff. Can you speak on that in terms of the food connection that we have in this country to our moods and how we're becoming increasingly more violent, it seems?
Absolutely. So there's a great study that was in 2023, for example. It was an NIH study, and what they found was that people that ate a diet that was high in fiber and plants had a 25 to 30% lower risk of depression. What we also know, I'm sorry.
So
25, yeah,
keep going.
25 to 30%. And then what we've also found is that there was another study, it was in nutritional neuroscience, and what they found is that when people switch from fast food diet to the Mediterranean diet, which is essentially a whole food-based diet, that they had a drop in their depression and anxiety symptoms over a 12-week period. So when we say that gut health affects mental health, it's not theory, it's actually hard data. And I guess a complicating factor here as it relates to Black communities is that Black communities suffer from the highest allostatic load as well, which is chronic wear and tear from stress. And part of that is driven by food insecurity. So 1 in 5 on average Black families are suffering from food insecurities, which means that if I'm telling you that your microbiome is the area in your body that can determine whether you have chronic inflammation, autoimmune disease, cancers, etc., but you don't even have access to those particular foods. And I'm telling you that this is also linked to depression and anxiety, which is not just that you don't feel good in your gut, but there's actually nerve inflammation that's creating chemicals, and that 95% of your feel-good hormones, by the way, are made in your gut, along with that 70% of your immune system. And your reward hormone is there as well. Dopamine, half comes from your gut, as well as your chill hormone, which is GABA, which is maybe why they're fighting on the planes. We don't have a direct cause and effect here, so I want to be very careful there. But if I'm telling you that, and that the best evidence is that diets high in fiber have the ability to quickly improve that, then absolutely there may be a correlation, and we need to think long and hard about, how we sort of change the narrative around what that access to healthy foods looks like.
Julian?
First of all, Doctor, thank you so very much for your work and for attempting to put us on the right path when it comes to our eating. One of the fads, I just went through a vegan cleanse, which is kind of challenging, but I think it was good. But one of the things that the people who did the cleanse talked about was probiotics. So they had a probiotic that you had to take each day along with this very restrictive diet. Talk to me more about probiotics and whether we should all be taking them, and really what they are, because I don't think everybody knows.
Absolutely. So probiotics are essentially marketed as live bacteria in your gut. So I've said that we have trillions of bacteria in our gut. And what you're attempting to do is put in those bacteria that are healthy bacteria. Now, the problem with the probiotics that are on the shelves is that we don't even know if the bacteria are still alive. It's not necessarily regulated, but there are natural forms of probiotics which are giving you those species that are associated with better health. And those come in the form of foods like yogurts, kombucha, kimchi. Those all contain probiotics, but also prebiotics. So there is a shift towards what we call prebiotics, and prebiotics are upstream. So we've got all these bacteria in our gut, but we want to, everybody's not the same. So you may not need, think of the gut as a garden. We've got a whole bunch of different plants and flowers in the garden. We've got dandelions, we've got cal lilies, we've got roses. We don't necessarily know if a person just needs dandelions, for example. So if you're just taking a probiotic strain, they may not be what you need. But what we do know is that diversity in your gut matters. And there's a big study looking at gut diversity that I'll talk about. But the way that you get to this gut diversity is by consuming different plants and different fibers. So you go upstream and you give your bacteria the food that it needs, and that is the prebiotic. And so you can imagine that from one person to another, because all of our gut footprints look different in terms of what's in there, you may not need that probiotic, that one particular strain off the shelf. We recommend that you either eat the probiotic naturally, which is, probably won't cause you any harm, but even better is to go upstream and get that prebiotic or those fibers. There's a big study called the American Gut Project where they looked specifically at the amount of plants that people consume to see, whether these diversity was associated with healthy disease outcomes. And there was a magic number of 30. If people consumed in the American Gut Project more than 30 plants per week, and everything counts. This is legumes, nuts, seeds, herbs, all of those things count towards that 30, that they had better health outcomes.
Scott?
Hey, Doctor. This is A. Scott Bolden. Thank you for your work in this space. Can you talk a little bit about the semi-glues and its impact on your gastro systems? I was on Mounjaro a couple of years back, lost a bunch of weight, but the side effects were just really significant, not just for Mounjaro. I was on, I think, Ozempic before then, and the side effects were worse, but I was able to manage Mounjaro. But I still think that it impacted my gastro system, even though I lost the weight and kept it off. Can you comment on these diet drugs and its impact on our gastro systems?
Absolutely. So the GLP-1s, so the GLP is a naturally occurring hormone in the actually in the gut, once again. And so the way that that GLP medications are working, the proposed mechanisms is that they are affecting your gut hormones and they're slowing your GI system down. So one of the main side effects of these particular hormones or hormone mimickers is that they are slowing your gastric emptying down. So your stomach is not emptying as quickly as it normally does. And what does that lead to? That leads to what you're trying to do, which is feel fuller for a longer period of time. Unfortunately, that fullness, sometimes leads to issues with people. So, if the dose is not right, somebody's intolerant, then they may end up, with nausea, vomiting. The entire gastrointestinal tract can slow down, which is called a paralytic ileus. And we have seen some people end up in the hospital as a result of this paralytic ileus. But, under the care of, a supervising physician or a healthcare team, these medications in general have been very helpful in a variety of conditions, including reversing metabolic disease, including improving fatty liver. So it's one of those situations where it's not, everything is not all good or all bad. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater type of situation. We have seen a substantial shift in terms of decreasing obesity, like I said, fatty liver, maybe cardiometabolic effects here, that is definitely in the favor of these medications. So, when people need them, if you start to experience side effects, then we just need to slow down, back off the dose. And there are some people that are just frankly intolerant of them.
All right, then. All right. Last thing, any website you recommend people when they want more information or a book to get? Where should they go?
Absolutely. So I have a book, Your Gut, Your Garden, where we really explore the profound connection between your gut health and your overall well-being. I can also be found, if you want a consultation with me or any members of my practice, at www.atlantagastroenterology.com. And, my final words, I really want people to start shopping on the outside of the grocery store, get involved in urban gardening and community co-ops, because what we're finding is that this gut microbiome influences so many aspects of our overall health.
All right, Doc, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, that is it for us today. Let me thank Julian. Let me thank Omekongo and Scott as well for joining us on today's panel. We certainly appreciate it. Folks, I'm here in Atlanta, Chris Tucker, Celebrity Golf Tournament. We're going to actually have some of the video for you tomorrow. Great outing today with Chris. I get a chance to catch up with him, so you'll see all of that. I just got to put it all together and edit it together, so we look forward to having that for you on tomorrow's show. Also, I'm going to be sitting down tomorrow, Pastor Jamal Bryant, for his podcast, talking about, of course, what's happening in politics, Target boycott, all kinds of stuff. So looking forward to that as well. Folks, don't forget, support the work that we do here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. We want you to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. If you can't do that, contribute less. We certainly appreciate it. You can do more, we appreciate it. So we appreciate every single dollar because it's about doing the work that matters to our people. You want to support us via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see the QR code right here. For the link, go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Also, check some money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. PayPal's R. Martin Unfiltered, Venmo, RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Mind, available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version I read on Audible. Of course, get our swag, Roland Martin Unfiltered, Black Star Network swag. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Get our popular shirt, Don't Blame Me, I Voted for the Black Woman. Again, shopblackstarnetwork.com. And also support the black-owned businesses we have on shopblackstarnetwork.com. You can see all those products by going to the website, and we appreciate that as well. Show the products in the studio, please. Again, all these products, we got food items, we got popcorn, we got desserts, we got HBCU shirts, we got skin care products, backpacks, all sorts of products right there on shopblackstarnetwork.com. And don't forget, download the app Fanbase. And if you want to invest in Fanbase, get more information at startengine.com/fanbase, startengine.com/fanbase. Folks, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla!